Hi there again, it's Ken Gavin, special guest historian for Gettysburg History, an initiative of the Adams County Historical Society and our special video series, Liberty, Lineage, Legacy. For this installment, I'm standing here in front of the old War Department tablet erected in the early portion of the 20th century. This one is for Kemper's Brigade, Longstreet's Corps, Pickett's Division, and as we all know, Kemper's Brigade is going to take part in that massive assault on the third day of the battle here at Gettysburg. I want to focus a little bit on one person from one of those regiments who took part in that assault. We're going to talk a little bit about Colonel Waller T. Patton of the 7th Virginia from Kemper's Brigade. Patton is a young guy at the time of the Battle of Gettysburg. He'd been born in 1835. He had a military education at the Virginia Military Institute and was highly intelligent and gifted with foreign and classical languages. Before he even graduated from VMI, he was an assistant professor of Latin. That's really impressive. When the American Civil War breaks out, he's going to volunteer for service and be commissioned an officer in the 7th Virginia. At the time, his colonel is James Lawson Kemper, who's going to go on to brigade command later in the war. Patton is going to be seriously wounded in 1862 at 2nd Manassas, and he's going to go home to recuperate for a while. He's elected to Virginia's state senate while he's recovering from his wounds. But instead of taking the seat and serving that political office, he elects to go back to his regiment. He's going to be the colonel by this point in time. They're operating in North Carolina in the spring of 1863, but those units are going to be called north for Lee's invasion of Pennsylvania. On July 3rd here at Gettysburg, as the battle is reaching its apex and its culmination during that massive assault on federal lines, some call it Pickett's Charge, others Longstreet's assault. Take your pick. I know folks have strong preferences on that. He is going to be part of that movement forward. And as they near the stone wall, the Union position on Cemetery Ridge, Waller T. Patton is seriously wounded by a Federal artillery shell that rips away a portion of his jaw. He lies seriously wounded on the field and is taken prisoner. And he's transferred to a field hospital at the old Pennsylvania College, today Gettysburg College. He does believe that he's going to recover. He writes to his family that he believes that he will, despite the serious nature of his wound. Suddenly, on July 21st, however, he dies. He has a brother named George Smith Patton who will be killed in 1864 fighting at the Third Battle of Winchester. Today, both of the Patton brothers are buried at Mount Hebron Cemetery in Winchester, Virginia, and you can go and see that grave. We want to talk a little bit, though, about his connection to the Revolutionary War. Waller T. Patton, that name Patton might be familiar to you. Yes, he is the great uncle of General George S. Patton, famed Olympian and World War II general, so there is a connection there. But the connection we're going to focus on today is to go backwards in time to Waller T. Patton's grandfather. His grandfather was Brigadier General Hugh Mercer, a hero of the American Revolution. Right? Waller T. Patton, as a young man, had grown up in Fredericksburg, Virginia. That's where his grandfather, Hugh Mercer, had lived for quite a period of time. Hugh Mercer's got an interesting story. He's born in 1726 in Aberdeenshire, Scotland, the son of a minister. He goes on to study medicine at the University of Aberdeen. And during the Jacobite Rebellion, he is a big supporter of Charles Edward Stuart, Bonnie Prince Charlie. Of course, they do not like the English one bit at all. And at the Battle of Culloden in 1746, a 20-year-old Hugh Mercer is there as a surgeon with those Scottish insurgent forces. Culloden, of course, is a disaster for the Scots. Hugh Mercer becomes a fugitive in his own homeland, and he's forced to flee. So by 1747, he's thinking about getting out of there. He's going to emigrate to North America. First, he'll go to Pennsylvania. When the French and Indian War breaks out on the frontier, he's an early volunteer. He sees service in several campaigns during that war, including General Edward Braddock's famed and doomed expedition to try to take Fort Duquesne in 1755. During that war, he becomes great friends with a very familiar name to you, George Washington, because of course George Washington is serving as a colonel of provincial Virginia forces during that French and Indian War itself. When the war ends, Mercer and Washington remain close friends. At Washington's suggestion, Hugh Mercer moves to Fredericksburg, Virginia. He opens an apothecary shop there. He plies his trade as an apothecary and a physician. He becomes a personal doctor to Mary Ball Washington, the mother of the father of our country. Mercer will eventually buy Ferry Farm, the boyhood home of George Washington, and he's thinking of establishing a prosperous life for himself in Virginia. When the American Revolution breaks out, when we have rebellion in 1775, Hugh Mercer is one of those individuals who is immediately aligned with the Patriot cause. He's going to do a lot of work locally with committees of correspondence, with committees of safety to support the Patriot cause in his city of Fredericksburg and in the colony of Virginia itself as well. He'll be appointed the colonel of the 3rd Virginia Infantry very early in the war. His lieutenant colonel is a guy named George Wheaton, who will go on to become a brigadier general in the Continental Army, also serving as young officers under Hugh Mercer in that very same 3rd Virginia Regiment. James Monroe, future President of the United States, and John Marshall, future Supreme Court Justice of the United States of America. So a cavalcade of future stars in the early Republic in terms of military service and service to the government itself. He'll lead that 3rd Virginia Regiment, and it won't be long before Hugh Mercer is promoted to Brigadier General by the Continental Congress because of his deep military experience and his value to the Patriot cause. By June of 1776, he's a Brigadier General. He'll fight with Washington during the New York campaigns, which are a disaster for the Continental Army. He'll work with Washington on the retreat through New Jersey, one of those other periods in time when the hopes for the revolutionary effort are at a nadir, they're at a low point. People are worried that the British are going to win and that the revolution is just going to die off. But as we all know, in late December of 1776, George Washington makes a momentous decision to try and bolster that Patriot effort. He wants to cross the Delaware River, frozen as it is, on Christmas night, attack a Hessian outpost at Trenton, New Jersey, and try to defeat them. Well, our friend, Brigadier General Hugh Mercer, is heavily involved with the planning of that operation, crosses the river, fights with Washington at Trenton. They experience victory there over the Hessians, almost improbably. Fight a second battle at Trenton not long after that, and then move off towards Princeton, New Jersey. And the culmination of what history has come to know as the 10 crucial days taking place in late 1776 and early 1777. Hugh Mercer is at the vanguard of a column of Continental infantry moving over the farm of Thomas Clark near the college town of Princeton, New Jersey, when they run headlong into British infantry there. And a very hot fight will ensue. British forces are beginning to overwhelm and surround Mercer's troops. They believe that Mercer is Washington. They have mistaken identity, and they demand that he come down off his horse and surrender. Mercer utterly refuses, even in the midst of being overwhelmed in the chaos. In the midst of the chaos and the confusion, Mercer refuses to surrender. He leads his men. He urges them onward. He urges them forward until he's finally pulled down from his horse by the British, beaten severely, and bayoneted 7 times. Mercer is left for dead on the field at that point, and the battle develops around him. Princeton will eventually be a Patriot victory as the British are forced from the field. That 10-day period of time when the revolution is almost dead, Washington leads his Continental forces to 3 improbable victories and bolsters support for the war effort, ensuring that it will live on and that the British will retreat into New Jersey and not move towards Philadelphia itself. Hugh Mercer is not dead. At least not yet. He is found on the field by the Continentals, and he is taken to the nearby farmhouse of Thomas Clark, where none other than the famous Dr. Benjamin Rush will come to try to care for him. Unfortunately, the wounds are too severe, and 9 days later, 9 days after that Battle of Princeton, Hugh Mercer succumbs to those wounds just shy of his 51st birthday. An immigrant, a political refugee who came to this new country and fought for it, gave his life for us. Initially, he's going to be buried at Christ Church Cemetery in Philadelphia, and then in 1840, reinterred at Laurel Hill Cemetery in Philadelphia. So you can visit his grave there today. But that is the grandfather of Walter T. Patton.
Bye.